para compreender e interpretar o mundo de hoje, não basta apenas saber ler. Também é necessário ser alfabetizado para as mídias e novas tecnologias. É sobre essa alfabetização que eu converso agora com Alton Grizzle, da Divisão de Liberdade de Expressão e Desenvolvimento de Mídia, do Escritório Central da Unesco, em Paris. Hello, welcome to our program. O que é essa alfabetização para as mídias e novas tecnologias? Como se pode preparar as pessoas para esse novo mundo?
We have come from a world where we understand education and literacy to mean reading, writing, and computing. But now we're in the 21st century. In the 21st century, people are learning through technology, they're learning through the media, they're accessing information through libraries, through archives, and we presume that they have all the skills and competencies that they need in this virtual and electronic world. But what UNESCO is proposing is that in the same way we have competencies in the physical world, as we're operating in a virtual and electronic world, we need to ensure that all citizens have new type of competencies. We are suggesting that literacy as we know it has been redefined, and so that citizens need to know how to search for information, how to be critical about information and media message, how to understand the roles and function in democratic societies, in development, how to understand their rights online and offline in this mediated world, to understand issues of privacy. Do I have privacy rights? How does my privacy impinge on my security? What are my responsibilities? So these are the issues that are covered in media and information literacy. It goes beyond technology, just new technologies. And so media and information competencies are not only for those who have privilege of technology. A farmer who is working in the Amazon needs information. And perhaps this person doesn't access information through technology. Maybe it's through a radio. Maybe it's not the internet. Maybe it is through the very etiquettes on a bottle where the farmer is receiving some chemical to spray. That farmer needs to be able to analyze the information that comes on this bottle for this pesticide to use on this farm. Is it good or is it not? So for us, media and information literacy is very vital in today's society, but we caution not to focus only on new technologies. We believe that we should take the entire ecology of media and information. And by that I mean the traditional media, radio, television, the internet, but also, non-traditional media, the libraries as an information repository, seeing museums as important information repository that preserve the collective memory of society, and that understanding information and the way they're packaged and stored, even in a museum, is important in the 21st century.
Então, a gente pode dizer, então, que esse programa da Unesco, então, está mais centrado no pensamento crítico.
Essentially, media and information literacy is about critical thinking. It's about being able to analyze why we believe what we believe, to analyze what sort of information, the information that we're receiving and consuming, how it's affecting our belief, how it's affecting how we perceive others, how it's affecting this type of stereotypes that we have of persons who are different from us, whether it's because of their color, because of their religion, or because of their sexual practices. It is critical thinking in every sense of the word. It's also a new form of civic engagement. Through media and information literacy, citizens are empowered to understand their role in a democracy, and that they are important and central to development. They're central to a democratic process, and that they have a right and an obligation to participate in the democratic process.
Agora, mas as novas mídias e novas tecnologias mudam todo esse contexto, né, e esse acesso à informação. E muitas vezes os pais, por exemplo, educando as crianças, Eles não são totalmente alfabetizados e confortáveis com essas novas mídias. E a tendência, muitas vezes, o impulso é reprimir, restringir, né? Qual seria o melhor caminho?
Well, for UNESCO, first of all, we believe that media and information literacy needs to be a part of the formal education curriculum at all levels of education, be it formal, non-formal, or informal education. We believe that every citizen should have access to media and information. We encourage empowerment over protection. The new technologies, as you have described them, have become so ubiquitous. They're everywhere. We really cannot fully protect young people from the potential risks and challenges. And so the best way is for them to self-protect. And for them to self-protect, we need to give them the competencies that they need. We need to ensure that they have the right knowledge and skills and attitude as how to engage with new technologies. So we favor empowerment over protection. We recognize, of course, that those who are juveniles, those who are underage children, must be protected. This is written in the Convention of the Rights of the Child, that children must be protected. But our argument is that this is not foolproof, and it will never be foolproof. Another important aspect of media and information literacy, as we talk about the risks and the potential challenges, is that media and information literacy should open up a new world of thinking about new technologies, a new thinking about how we think about the media landscape and ecology, because statistics have shown us, research have shown us, that the benefits, the potential opportunities and benefits far outweigh the challenges. But somehow we focus so much on the challenges, and we put so much resources into protecting young people, thinking that they should not be a part of this, they should not engage with it. But if we were to invest 30% of the resources that are being spent in focusing on the negative, research studies that are focusing on the negative aspect of the media, of technology, if we were to invest a percentage of that in empowering young people to understand how they can use technology for positive purposes, how they can use technology, through technology, they can counter intolerance. We had an important debate here in the Senate, in the Communication Council, on media and information literacy. And we partnered with the Educommunications NGO here in Brazil. And a number of young persons, about 3 young girls, presented an experience they had using radio and producing media. Because media and information literacy is both about access, critical thinking, critical analyzing, but also producing your information and media content. And they shared an experience where through this radio program, they were producing this radio program, this radio program, they had to partner a public school and a private school. And they said in the beginning they felt like, oh, this is not going to work, These 2 schools are like on the other ends of the spectrum. And one young individual, she shared that when they got together for the first time, they just weren't talking. They didn't know how to communicate with each other. One set was in that corner from the private school, other set was in that corner from the public school. But eventually, they had to engage in media production. It's learning through doing, all right? And it wasn't so much new technologies, but it's also the traditional technology, because they were preparing programs for the radio and for the internet. And she shared how it really transformed the relationship. She shared how through this production that they were doing, they were able to remove all the stereotypes that they had out of each other, that they were equals, that they weren't different because of their socioeconomic background. No, this is the power of what technology can do. This is the power of what media production and learning through doing can do. It's the power of what communication can do. Once we can engage young people in dialogue through communication, it can break down barriers. And this is what media and information literacy is about. It's about engaging with traditional media and new media and libraries for social change, to promote peace, to promote equality and social justice, to monitor the media. For example, gender equality is an important topic. for UNESCO. We believe that there should be equal representation, for example, of women and men in the media. There should be equal coverage and reporting on issues affecting both women and men. Media and information literacy skills can empower citizens to demand this type of equality in the media. Because through media and information literacy, they can understand the operations of the media, they can understand the functions of the media, they can monitor, they develop skills to monitor certain aspects of the media. They know how to get recourse. Is there a media council? Is there some sort of media ombudsman? Where can we go? They know through media and information literacy understand that I'm not going to consume this information because this information is biased. And I can do something about it. I can take action.
Quando vocês falam que essa alfabetização deve estar presente em todos os níveis, isso seria dentro das escolas? Como que aconteceria esse programa?
So I think we require a multifaceted approach. We know for sure that changing the formal education curricula, it's like changing a culture. It takes very long, but it must be done because media and information literacy is literacy. So what we propose is a multifaceted approach. One is that we need some sort of national policies in the first place, national policies that will influence transformation and reform of the education system, both from primary school all the way up to tertiary level. And so in doing, at the primary school, for example, then the curriculum needs to be reformed. And a decision needs to be taken through feasibility study and assessment, whether it's best to integrate media and information literacy competencies across different curricula, across different subject area, whether it's in the language arts, whether it's in the sciences, whether it's in civic education for schools who have maintained subjects like civic education. In some schools, in some countries, there's that sort of a cross subject integration of MIL. It makes it more difficult to assess and evaluate. And so one approach also is as UNESCO puts it, a blended approach. You have it integrated across subjects, but you also have a standalone course, a sort of a capstone course that all students in primary school must complete, whether in primary, secondary school, or even tertiary level education. So it's a combination of integrated across subject areas, but also a standalone capstone course so that it can be more easily evaluated and assessed and monitored. But that's for the formal education. That's going to take time. There are other approaches to do this. It's through extracurricular activities. There are many schools that are associated with UNESCO, the ASP.NET network of UNESCO schools across Brazil and globally. And so these type of activities could be integrated in school clubs, in different youth groups, where you could implement media and information literacy. There could be training for teachers as sort of an institute approach, as sort of upgrading for teachers where they go for 1 week intensively to be trained or 2 weeks intensively to be trained on how to teach media and information literacy and how to teach through media and information literacy. So that's another approach that can be taken, but also for the teacher education, what we are proposing, and we have developed resources. We have developed, for example, the media and information literacy curriculum for teachers. And this is a comprehensive curriculum, designed by curriculum developers, those who have expertise in education. And we're working and piloting with governments around the world to integrate media and information literacy in teacher education, because we need to train the teachers. And this is something that happened with new technologies. When new technologies came and swept the world, most schools and governments were rushing to retool, to put a computer in the classroom, to put in whiteboards and electronic boards, and they were doing all these wonderful things, but the teachers weren't ready. They weren't trained. And it's the same thing that we're saying that we should avoid for media and information literacy. We need to train the teachers, and we have been doing some of that across the world. Another new and innovative approach to training on media and information literacy is what are called massively open online courses. More people have access to internet today than 10 years ago, and many people are doing training through the internet. UNESCO, we have developed courses on media and information literacy that are online, self-paced courses. And what we are pushing for is multiple MOOCs, massively open online course on media and information literacy, in multiple languages. For example, if it's in English, it doesn't mean that it should be one MOOC in English. We should have 20, 30, 40 MOOCs in English. adapted to the relevance of a particular country or region. And, you know, in fact, we're happy to say that this one of the MOOCs that we've developed, we're now partnering with the University of Unicamp, I believe it is, in the Campinas. And they're adapting this MOOC in Portuguese for their community. So this is another approach to ensuring more people have access to media and information literacy competencies and training.
E esse currículo de preparação para os professores e também esses cursos online já estão disponíveis?
They're already available. So someone could go and search now for UNESCO Media and Information Literacy MOOC, and they will be able to find this open course. It's an open course. Persons do not need to pay to do this course. You can do it at your own pace, based on your own interests. So there are 10 modules, but you don't even have to take all 10 modules if you don't have interest in certain modules. You will receive certification based on the modules that you complete. So this is an open course that is now available. So persons can take it. The MIL curriculum is also available in close to 20 languages, including recently we partnered with the local organization, cetic.br, and we translated these resources in Portuguese. So we have the curricula in Portuguese. We have the policy and strategy guidelines, as I spoke about earlier, that we need national policies on media and information literacy. That is also in Portuguese. And we also have the monitoring framework. So you have the curricula, you have policy and strategy guidelines. You need to monitor and measure the successes that you're having in implementing MIL. And so we also have resources for those. And all three resources form a part of what we call a MIL toolkit, and they're all available in Portuguese.
A Unesco é uma organização que está presente no mundo inteiro e essas orientações são para todo mundo, né? Quais são as diferenças? Que são países que têm realidades bem diferentes, né? Assim, e relações com a mídia bem diferentes também, né?
The way these resources are developed, they're developed with adaptation in mind. So it's a non-prescriptive approach. These tools are very comprehensive. And so the process to use these tools require a level of adaptation. And normally in a country, we will guide our stakeholders. So there's first of all, let's say there's supposed to be some discussion about policies here in Brazil, and they're using UNESCO's tool as a guide. The first step would be to have a multi-stakeholder consultation. So you bring together the persons from education, from culture, from technology, from information and library science, from media. And you bring all the stakeholders together, the parents, the NGOs. And there's a discussion about media and information literacy and its relevance, similar to what happened in this Communications Council of the National Congress. Through that debate and discussion, once there's some level of consensus, there needs to be local experts in the field that will adapt this particular policy and strategy guidelines. So they will take this, and based on the discussions, they will carry out some basic research in the country to evaluate the status of MIL in the country. Is there existence of certain aspects of media and information literacy in the existing curricula or in existing policies? And then they will decide what they need to take from this tool, what aspect will work, what aspect will not work, what they need to change, what they need to add, and they will develop what we call some sort of position paper on media and information literacy policy and strategies. So it's like preparing a law. It starts very early from just debate, it becomes a white paper, and it goes through several processes of adaptation, of debates, of verification before it comes into being, before it is articulated as a policy or national law. It's the same thing with using these tools. Before we can say this is what will work, there has to be some sort of situation analysis in the country. We have to decide what aspect of this is relevant or not, what will need to be adapted, what will need to add, and what can be used as is. And we have been experimenting with this in a number of countries across the world, including Nigeria, in Kenya, in the Philippines, in India, and also in Europe, for example, in Sweden. The entire Swedish program on media and information literacy, and they have a national program on media and information literacy, is based on the UNESCO tools that I described to you. And they went through this process. All these tools are translated in Swedish, and they went through the adaptation process, the discussion, the consultation, until they come with their own national policy on media and information literacy. So we've seen where this works.
E quanto tempo levou esse processo na Suécia?
It all depends. In Sweden, it took, this was perhaps over, 4 years. It was a relatively long process, but then it depends also on the level of resources that are at the disposal of the particular country that wants to engage in this, the level of commitment and political commitment for this process. It also in Finland, it's not a Nordic country, but they've also based their policy, their national policy, on all the UNESCO resources and framework, and they also have a national policy on MIL. And in Finland, it took perhaps about the same time, between 2, 3, 4 years process for dialogue and exchange. And again, it's a gradual process. It's not a one-off. We just fix it and we develop a policy, but it's gradual. There's a pilot process. It's piloted in a number of schools. It's piloted with a number of teacher education institutions, and gradually a larger program is rolled out over time.
E vocês têm sentido algum tipo de resistência da mídia tradicional?
Resistance, I'll say perhaps there is a debate as to how embracive traditional media will be to this concept of media and information literacy.
Eles se sentem vulneráveis?
This is the debate that is going on. The question is, for example, we have a tool, we have another resource that is called Guidelines for Broadcasters to Promote Media and Information Literacy and user-generated content. And we have had some successes in terms of media organization using these tools, but they're largely public media organizations. These are, quote-unquote public service broadcasters, or more national broadcasters. And so we have had some successes working with the Caribbean Broadcasting Union and the Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union and the African Union of Broadcasters using this tool to promote MIL. However, we have not had that level of success or engagement with private media organization. As I said, the debate is, many persons question whether media would want persons to be critical of their content. But I think there's some good success stories, partly in Europe. BBC, for example, has developed important programs on what they call media literacy. UNESCO calls it media and information literacy. In France, there are a number of national France television that have developed important programs on media and information literacy. And UNESCO is trying to push this agenda. Again, it's a long process, but it's about how you coin media and information literacy, because there are many dimensions to media and information literacy. There's the critical dimension, being critical of media, but there's also a dimension where you empower citizens to advocate for the freedom of expression and for free media. And so it's also an opportunity for media organizations where citizens will stand up with them and defend them, and to say to the government, we prefer more self-regulation, more co-regulation than state regulation. And this is what UNESCO promotes, that we understand that there needs to be a certain level of state regulation, but it should not be overdone, because if it's too draconian, then what we run the risk of curtailing freedom of expression. Now, when we empower citizens through media and information literacy, as I said, one of the competencies is for citizens to understand the functions and importance of media and information providers in a democratic society. If they understand this, then they will see that, no, we need a free, pluralistic, and independent media. They will understand that we are going to stand to defend journalists. Many journalists are being killed around the world. Journalists are important information providers. So too are librarians and archivists and museum creators. They're also important information providers. But the sad story is that many journalists are being killed. We see the report coming from the UNESCO Director General every year, coming from the Committee for the Protection of Journalists, and we see a sad trend in many parts of the world. If citizens understand the importance of media and other information providers, they will defend this. They will speak out to their government against impunity when a journalist is killed. If they understand the importance of an open internet, then they would advocate for an open internet, one that is free from the influence of government or big businesses, for that matter. But then they need to receive the basic competencies to understand this. It is going back to many years ago when the Gutenberg press came. It was printing, it was transforming how communication happened, and everybody was paying attention to this. And this is what we have in the 21st century. But we're saying that we should not get too excited. We should not put an overemphasis on new technologies. For example, Unesco believes that in this 21st century, libraries have never been more important, and that governments need to be investing in libraries, because young people are losing their attention span. They're losing the relevance of being able to read and knowing that they need to read to lead, we have been talking about. And so that we talk about a sort of an equality between all forms of information providers, and this is this sort of composite and all-inclusive approach that we take to media and information literacy. It's not just the traditional media, it's not just libraries, also research. It's also stereotyping the education systems that we have, and there's many stereotypes in textbooks that we're using. So the critical thinking in media and information literacy the critical thinking is applied across the board. So you're in a class in education, you're using a textbook, you can spot stereotypes, you can spot biases, whose history is being told and whose version of the history is being told. This is very important to critical thinking and what we call media and information literacy.
Alton Grizzle, muito obrigada pela sua participação. Eu conversei com Alton Grizzle, da Divisão de Liberdade de Expressão e de Desenvolvimento de Mídia do Escritório Central da Unesco em Paris. Se você tiver alguma sugestão para o programa Cidadania, ligue para o Alô Senado. O número é 0800 61 2211. E se você quiser rever essa entrevista, acesse nosso portal na internet, senado.leg.br/tv. Obrigada pela audiência e até o próximo Cidadania.